So then here you have a laser point.
I would like to show something.
Yeah. Yeah, the keyboard if you want to use, but I don't think necessary. Oh, I suggest you to. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It works better. Perfect. Yeah. So.
Maybe on this one.
Or maybe. I have a mouse pad.
Do you need this one?
Yeah. That's not the problem. So.
I have some bachelor and master in science, but the PhD.
Now you are.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah, because I have our first 5 minutes to share any good news or.
So you are starting with that one, and then we are ready. Shall I sit in again?
Oh, whatever you want. If you want to sit here, just like 5 minutes. So, thank you very much for you all to come. As we are used to, in the first 5 minutes, we usually share any good news or any conference that you want to share. That's the time. So, I just want to share that in the next month, in September, and 26th until 28th, we have the Pork Expo. It's a conference just about pigs in Foz do Iguaçu, and the inscription tax is not too high. It's one of the most important conferences about pigs in Brazil. So just type on Google Pork Expo 2018 Foz do Iguaçu, and then you have all the information. Have a lot of speakers from abroad, and also Brazilian ones. Anybody else have another good news or conference to share?
Yeah, we have a new visitor from Norway. Dan is with us here. Welcome, and joined the Norwegian delegation. I have a second set of information. We have in the campus the delegation from the Hanover Vet School, and the president of the university, and 5 other faculty, and among the faculty, our loved Jörg Hartung. And I have been with them in the morning, and he's scheduled to be with us at 4 o'clock. We need to have a plan B because there's a lot of rush in how they're going through the campus. That is the second. I'm really pleased to announce that our first PhD from the team is going to be presented in this room next week, Friday the 31st at 9 o'clock. Evandro submit his thesis. I also have is Patricia here? Then you're going to announce that. And we also Dennis here also can say that too about we have a retreat on Saturday, and for our retreat, Beati, our collaborator from Top James, is coming, and I'm setting up a plan that Jörg also can join us on the Saturday retreat. I mean, there's a lot of things happening on Saturday, and I think there's also some call for a social gathering on Friday night that appears to be under organization. Now I pass it, and I'm going to announce that I'm very, very pleased that I've been asked to be the patrono for this class of 80. Is a special honor where these people that are completing the vet school asked me to be this. I don't know what the translation in English, but it's when they complete their degree, they invited a few professors to be honored, and I've been one of these. And they caught me surprised, and there is a very funny video on Facebook with me receiving the award, and I hope you're not going to click like on that video because it's quite embarrassing, the video. Don't do that. Now I think we have Patricia and Dennis to tell something. Dennis.
Well, I'd like to tell about my project that we are acquiring the machines to start the project, and also I send my project to FAPESP, that is a foment employer Brazil that invests in research, and I'm very happy to be here and start my project in the doctorate. Thank you very much.
I have two things to share. The first is my piglet's brain are sequencing the epigenetic data, and I will have the data soon, and we will answer about the effects of the prenatal environment shaping the phenotype, and we expect that the epigenetics are the mechanism. So in the brain we will have this data soon, and I had my first paper of my thesis accepted on a journal. So yeah, this is the news.
Congratulations.
We have CQs most. We have how many? You can say that was CQs. We have this undergrad event, and I think the team is going to have three different. You also have something to say about your trip with the department. Can say something.
I don't have nothing to say.
Because you went through this.
I went into grottos, but yeah, we just saw the turtles, and it was just that. We didn't see any capybara poop or any other animal besides humans. So yeah.
But you can say that you were analyzing the first steps of your study.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Oh, good news. Very good. Thank you.
Anybody else? So I would like to thank you, Dr. Marko. Dr. Marko has a bachelor's and master in animal science and a PhD in ethology. And now he's a postdoctoral fellow in Norwegian University of Life Science. So thank you very much for your talk.
The title is fantastic. We get so many positive comments. Really nice comment. People like the title.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Thiago, for a nice introduction. Yes, my name is Marko Ocepek, and today I would like to make a presentation with the title, Can We Produce a Super Cell? And the focus is going to be on maternal investment, maternal traits, and its consequences on piglet survival. So the topics we are going through today are three. And the first one I will begin with, it's relationship between piglet survival and increasing litter size. Then we are going to see the relation between maternal investment, how it is related to increasing piglet survival. And the last topic we are going to hear today is going to be which maternal traits are important for piglet survival. And the focus here is going to be on behavioral traits and on other morphology traits. Yeah, litter size was included into the breeding goal around the world 3 decades ago. And I have on this video presentation how it changed during 3 last decades since this traits was included in the breeding goal for different countries, mainly from European countries on this slide. And this is for Switzerland, Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, United Kingdom, Norway, and Austria. And we can see that during all 3 decades, litter size was in fact increasing. So in a way, what we can say, just from this perspective, selecting for larger litter was successful. On this slide is a little bit newer data from Interpig, and this data is from 2015, showing the relationship between, in different countries, the relationship between litter size at birth and to pre-weaning mortality. So we can see that in each country, when we are increasing the number of live-born piglets at birth, at the same time, there is also increasement in piglets' mortality. But what we can also see from this figure, what is really interesting, that there is also huge variation. So we can see, for example, we have quite similar litter size, like for example, Great Britain, Italy, and Brazil, of course. And we can see that there is much lower mortality in Brazil than in other two countries. There is also one outliner on this figure. And this outliner is Sweden. Sweden is the only country reported on this in Interpig that has loose housing system. All the other countries are creating the sows during farrowing and lactation period. So one could assume that loose housing system increasing mortality. This is why I also add up Norway. The other countries also having loose housing system. And what we can see here, that in Norway, we have larger litter size at birth, even though if we are also loose, even though if we have loose housing system, much lower mortality, for example, than Germany, France, or Belgium. So we have seen that there is huge variation in piglet mortality, and it is differing between countries. And here I would like to present our recent study made on 900 sows, and we can see that there is also huge variation in piglet mortality within the country, even though we are selecting against mortality. So we can see that we can have some sows, in our case, almost 250 out of 900, without any mortality. And yet, mortality is also, there is also mortality up to 90%. And on average, sows are capable of weaning 12 piglets, but still the variation is from 2 and up to 22. So there is a lot of factors affecting piglets' mortality. Here I mentioned some of them: maternal traits, management, and of course environment. But as I mentioned at the beginning, I will mainly focus on litter size, maternal investment, and on maternal traits. So, and now we can go to our study. In this study, we have analyzed the consequences, what is going on while we are increasing litter size. So this is why we have included Norwegian Landrace breed that is highly selected for larger litters. We have also included crossbred Norwegian Landrace crossed with Yorkshire. This is most widespread sow in Norway. And in contrast, we also added Norwegian Duroc. This is the paternal line that is not selected for large litter, but for some other traits like carcass quality, meat quality, and so on. And now we can go to our results. On this slide, it's presented how litter size, breed, and interaction between litter size and breed is affecting 12 different variables included in our study. And we can see that everything is related to litter size, everything. And at the same time, breed and interaction between litter size and breed are affecting six the same variables. But more about that a little bit later. First, I would like to present what is actually the effect of litter size. So while we are increasing the litter, piglets are spending more time pre-massaging and post-massaging other. So they're investing more time and more energy. And one could assume that these are honest signals of hungry signals. And mothers do in fact respond by providing more milk, in that case a sow, but she cannot provide more milk during one nursing interval, but she can provide more milk by shortening nursing intervals between two nursing. So the sow is actually increasing number of nursing per day, so she can pet offsprings. And yet, this is why if there's more litters at birth, larger litters at birth, more piglets are actually capable of being weaned in such litters. So far, so good. But what is the cost of large litter? There's going to be more nursing terminations. There is going to be an increase in sibling competition, meaning that piglets that are actually at the udder are not going to get access to a teat during the milk letdown. And as a result of that, there's going to be more piglets starved to death, more crushing occurrence, and piglets that are actually capable to survive until weaning, they will have lower body weight and they will have more variable body weight. So a lot of high costs for the piglets. And now we are going to see what is interaction between litter size and breed affecting our variables included in our research. This is now the same for post-massaging and for nursing intervals, and how it is differing while increasing litter size in 3 different breeds. And we can see for the maternal line, Norueguesa, while increasing the litter size, there's steepest increase in time and energy investing post-massaging the others. But as opposite, now mothers are not capable to respond anymore to decrease time between 2 nursing, but rather they're increasing. They're not capable to provide more food to such large litters. At the same time, here is representing now sibling competition. And in the center, for the left side, we can see the proportion of piglets that missed a teat during the milk letdown. And on the right side is the proportion of piglets that are capable of monopolizing 2 teats. And we can see again that while we are increasing the litter size in maternal line, there's steepest increase in proportion of piglets not capable to get in teat, even though they're at the udder. And there is really small proportion of piglets in maternal lines capable to increase own fitness by using more than 1 teat. What does this mean? I have found one study. The study was done in Spain. I think it was from 2005, and they were analyzing suckling behaviors in wild boar. And study was done during the 8 years or something like that. So I prepare here the comparison with the wild boar to our breeds. And we can see that in wild boar, each piglet would have 2.2 functional teats to use to improve own fitness. In case of new paternal line, there is still around 2 functional teeth per piglet. So they have possibility to use 2 teeth. But in new highly selected maternal lines, there is only 1 functional teeth. And at the same time, piglets in wild boar, 50% of them are still capable to increase fitness. In Norueguesa, around almost 20%, but really low amount in our new maternal lines. What does this respond to? To much higher also proportion of piglets that are not capable to not even get access to a teat during the milk letdown. So there is going to be around 15% of the piglets not capable to get a teat at milk letdown. And what is the result of all of this? Here is presented the mortality. This is the postnatal mortality during the whole lactation period. And on the right side is presented maternal crushing. And we can see as a result of that, there is, while increasing the litter size, there is steepest increase in postnatal mortality in Norueguesa, especially because there is steepest increase in maternal crushing. So while increasing the litter size in such highly selected maternal line, there is going to be much higher crushing events. So in summary, what we can conclude, that piglets are still investing, showing some signs of honest bagging signals, investing a lot of time and energy in post-massaging the udder, but mothers are not responding anymore to provide more milk. So that means that larger litter birth is not responding to larger litter at weaning, but rather to increase sibling competition and increase mortality due to crushing. And piglets that are actually capable to survive until weaning, they will have, again, lower body weight and lower uniformity, litter uniformity. Okay, this was what I have prepared for today, the relationship between piglet survival and increasing the litter size. And now I'm going to the next topic, and this is maternal investment. And here I would like to present the consequences of litter investment on sow physical condition. And the focus here is going to be on body condition losses and shoulder lesion development during the lactation period. And we will see how is this reflected in primiparous and multiparous sows. So primiparous means first parity sows, and the sows that have more than one parity. But before I'm going to present our data, our results, I would like to show what was actually going on the last 50 years, why we were selecting for leanest pigs and for rapid growth in pigs. During that period, the mature weight of the sow increased from 200 to 300 kilograms. And what does that mean? That means that mother sow, she would not reach adult size until reaching 5th, 6th, or even in some cases 7th parity. So at the first parity sow, they're going to have only 70% of mature weight. And the second parity sow, only 80%. So at the first and the second parity, why they already have to invest in their reproduction success so they can be successful, they still need a lot of resources for personal growth, development, and survival. And another important issue here is to point out, as mentioned before, litter size is included in the breeding order. But for larger litters, selection is focused on the first parity sow. And here I have one example how litter size had increased during the last 7 decades. And this is the example for the studies from Norway. And 70 years ago, we can see that on average, first parity sows had 9 piglets. While nowadays studies are showing that first parity sows have between 12 and 13 piglets, meaning that there is an increase in 3 to 4 piglets at first parity, and at the same time, they still have to invest resources in personal growth. And now we can see what actually increase in litter size mean for investing in the litter. Here is presented from our study how increasing the litter size at birth is going to increase the litter weight at birth. So this is directly investment in the litter. So we can see there is increasing with the litter size, is increasing the litter weight. The second line represents how litter gain during the lactation period is increasing while increasing the litter size. And the third line represents how litter weight at weaning is increasing with increasing litter size. And we can calculate it, to be even more precisely, we have calculated total litter investment. And by total litter investment, we have calculated the weight of the litter at weaning, plus the weight of all piglets that die until weaning. And this is the last fourth line, representing how the same is increasing while increasing litter size. And I must say that while sow is actually investing more resources by having larger litters, she is also actually increasing food consumption. But on the other side, while she is investing more resources in the litter, meaning that she has higher litter investment, she still needs to gain some extra resources. She cannot eat enough food during the lactation period. This is why, while they're increasing the investment, they're losing much more body condition during the lactation period. And at the same time, while increasing investment in the litter, they're also developing more shoulder lesions during the lactation. And here's also one example how body condition losses and shoulder lesion development differ between first parity sows and between sows that have more than first parity. And we can see that while primipary sows should still invest resources in personal growth, they're in fact losing much more of body condition. And at the same time, they're also developing much more shoulder lesion. So is it really the focus and the best choice to increase the litter investment earlier in life? And how is this going to affect, or is already affecting, the longevity? Yeah. No. But especially, I cannot present all the data today, but especially the focus here is the first parity sow in highly productive maternal line. But I don't have enough time to present all the details today, but this is the case, yes. Yeah, so how is this higher investment earlier in life is going to affect lifetime breeding success? This is what I have prepared for maternal investment. And now we are going to maternal traits that are important for piglet survival. Even though we are selecting for 3 decades for lowering piglets mortality, there is still huge mortality rate, around 20% of all piglets that are born dead or eventually die until weaning around the world. And there are several factors, of course, interacting in between that are affecting piglet mortality. And some of them are mentioned here, like prenatal condition, piglet viability, environment, management, and of course, maternal behavior. In Norway, we have loose housing system during the farrowing and during the whole lactation period. So promoting maternal traits is essential for pig sustainable production. Even though domestic sow differ in reproductive and productive performance from wild ancestor, the behavioral repertoire remains similar. So a day or so before farrowing, sow are really eager to build a nest so they can provide shelter, comfort, and protection for newborn piglets. In nature, they can walk up to 10 kilometers or even more to gather all necessary material. And right before they're giving birth to piglets, they're calmed down and lying in the nest. First few days after the birth, they're mainly in this nest with the piglets. The sow is interacting with the piglets. She is establishing mother-young bond and providing warmth and nutrients from the other. Sow is communicating with the piglets through olfactory, tactile, and vocal cues. It is well established how communication is important during short-lasting nursing intervals. First, sow is calling piglets, come and begin with pre-massaging, and then she's letting them know when to switch from pre-massaging to suckling. But less research was focused on the importance of sow communication between nursing intervals. So in our study, we have focused to design which maternal behavioral traits are important for piglet survival. In the next step, to develop qualitative behavioral scoring system out of these behaviors. And at the end, to test them under commercial setup to see if they're working. So the 2 behaviors we have included or start beginning analyzing from the beginning is nest building activities. And by nest building activities, I mean manipulating, rooting, pawing, carrying nest building material. And we also included sow communication, sniffing, grounding, and nudging. And especially we were focused on while sow was active. So while she was moving around, standing, or just before she is lying down. And these are now our results. We have video observed sows during the last 12 hours before farrowing. And I have to say that all of the sows, they had ad libitum amount of nest building materials. And we can see that sows that invest more time during the last 15 hours before farrowing are the ones that actually had the lowest proportion of stillborn, and they also have lower maternal crushing after the farrowing. So more time investing in preparing the nest, lower proportion of stillborn, and less crushing after the farrowing. And now to the second behavior we have analyzed, also through video records. And here we have focusing on 2 first days after the farrowing, where the piglet survival is most crucial. And we can see that while they were standing, moving around, during that time, if they were spending more time to communicate with the offspring, those sows had lower postnatal mortality, especially because they crushed less piglets and because they starved. Yeah, all 3. Yes. And they also have much lower proportion of starved piglets. So far, so good. So we have developed out of these 2 behaviors our qualitative behavioral scores. But here is a lot of work done because it has to be a really simple system. So at the end, the farmers, they can score it on their own. So it was taking quite a lot of time to prepare such a system. But okay, we have developed, as you could see before, we have developed scoring system for nest building behavior and for sow communication while she was active. And we also added up one extra scoring system, and this is sow carefulness. So during the last 12 hours before farrowing, we scored nest building activities while sow was active. And the score was from 1 to 3. While she was active, if there was no nest building events, less than 50 or more than 50%. During the first 2 days after the farrowing, so the easiest way is while the sow is standing up and going eating or drinking or urinating, during that time, scoring sow communication from 1 to 4. So 1 means no events, 4 meaning the sow communicates in every event. And sow carefulness during the same period. And again, 1 means no event, and 4 means attentive, careful, protective every time. So in the first step, we have tested. So we have compared actual behaviors analyzed through videos and to our scoring system. And we found that between our scoring system, there was, for example, for nest building behavior, there was moderate correlation to actual behavior of nest building. And we also found that sow communication while she was standing, analyzed through video, was moderated, correlated with our communication score. And our carefulness score was also moderated, correlated with sow communication while analyzing. And even more important is that both of our scores, communication and carefulness scores, they were highly correlated. So one could assume here that sow that communicate more while they're moving around, they become more protective, trampling less the piglets and lying less on the piglets. But first we have to compare our data with production parameters to see if this is so. So here's presented our production parameters, how related to our scoring system. And we can see that while increasing score for nest building, for communication, and for carefulness, yes, there were lower postnatal mortality, especially because there were lower maternal crushing. And in case for communication, there was also lower proportion of starved piglets. And because of that, there was also more piglets being weaned while increasing nest building score, while increasing communication score, and while increasing carefulness score. But if we would like to include these traits into the breeding call, we need some variation so we can select for these traits. So we have tested if we have some variation in our scoring system. And yes, we found that yes, we have in mass building score, we have in our communication score, and really nice distribution in our carefulness score. But this study was done under experimental setup, including 40 south. So we have to go out under the commercial system. We have included the farms, main peak production areas. This is North Trøndelag, Ostland, and Rogaland. And we have ended up having around 900 south and a little bit less than 50 farms. And here, the farmers, they have to score all the behavioral scores, and they didn't have any training. We just send them instructions, and after that, we call them and discuss with them if there was anything open questions. So we can see that as in experimental setup, here in the commercial setup, while farmers are scoring, we can see that again, while there is more communication between sow to offspring while she was active, there is lower postnatal mortality. And at the same time, higher the carefulness score, lower postnatal mortality. And of course, the same is also for number of piglets being weaned. Higher our nest building score, higher our communicative score, and carefulness, the more piglets were actually weaned in all three cases. So we have seen that scoring system is working under experimental setup and under commercial system. But at the end, we also wanted to test best predictive accuracy for out of our three different behaviors. So which combination of our behavior gives the best predictive accuracy for lower postnatal mortality and for more piglets being weaned. And in both cases was combination of sow communication and sow carefulness. And yet, again, we had in the commercial herds, we have highly correlation both of these two scores, communication and carefulness. And yes, if we would like to select for these traits, we need to have some variation in these traits, and yet we found in both cases for communication score and for our carefulness scores. Okay, this is what we have been doing in relation to maternal behavior traits to piglet survival, and we have also researching which other morphology traits are important for piglet survival. And here we have measured all functional teats at the udder. We measured teat length, teat diameter, and distance between two teat pair. So from the left to the side. And we have divided teats into three groups: anterior, middle, and posterior. So here is presented how teat per distance, teat length, and teat diameter differ between our three breeds, between primiparious and multiparious sows, and between all three teat positions. And we can see that Norsvinlandres breed had the shortest teat per distance, and Durok breed has the shortest teats. Of course, because primiparious sows are still growing at that age, they have lower teat per distance, shorter teats, and shorter diameter. And when compared teat positions, we found out that middle teats having greatest teat per distance, longest teats, and with greatest diameter. And what was important in this study, we found out that at day one, where the access to a teat is crucial for piglet survival, 22% of functional teats was not used. Then we test which teats are not used. And we found that there is no problem accessing anterior teats. But there began to be a problem accessing middle teats and posterior teats. And the most problematic are the teats in the lower teat row. where around 50% of the teeth are not accessible. And we found the reason. And the reason is when the distance between teeth rows is longer than 16 centimeters, first, the teeth in the lower teeth row are getting not accessible because usually the soil is lying on them. And piglets at that point, at day 1, they're not capable to pushing the teeth to coming out. And afterwards, while the distance is even further increasing up to 18 or even more centimeters, then also upper teeth row is actually becoming unreachable for the piglets. And here is the overview, what we have found. What is going on at the other, if we are having like 15 functional teeth and 15 piglets. So as farmers are asking us what is the best to adjust the litter size, and we are saying, yeah, you have to have enough, the same equal number of functional teeth and the piglets. And this is the overview what is actually happened in such position. And we can see if we have equal number, 14, 15, or 16, or something like that, 15% of the piglets at day 1, it's not getting access to a teeth. And this is decreasing until day 21, up to 6-7%. And there is quite similar up to day 35. So this, what is decreased here, is most likely mortality. And we can see that there is around 5% of the piglets capable of monopolizing 2 teeth over the whole lactation period. And I'm calling them super piglets. So we have the most crucial access to teeth is at day 1. And we can see why. 1/3 because of the sibling competition, and 2/3 because of other constraints, like I said, teeth per distance. So in conclusion, I would like to say it's not enough that we are increasing litter mortality and having broad trade included in the breeding goal for lowering piglet mortality. What we need to reduce piglet losses, and we need to have more direct traits included into the breeding goal. And some of them I already presented today. And as we have seen today, if we are going to reduce piglets losses, then we have to know that this is going to reflect higher investment costs for the mother. So we should not forget to improve at the same time also soil robustness. So thank you for your attention.
So if anybody of you have any question, Marko is available to answer. And also I asked the guys from the internet. Anybody?
Yeah, please. Teeth morphology, we've been interested in this group and some of teeth morphology in symmetry. We have in fact a student that we need to find out where is publication and because we visited the Actis farm and they are focusing a lot on this morphology of the teeth. They may indirectly be selecting for lower mortality on the basis of that. Do you agree with that? Maybe the issue of other morphology is in a way a way of indirect selection for higher piglet survival.
Yeah, of course. It can be the case, but it has to be really direct threats, so you can really focus not to constrain the other from the other perspective as well. But also in Norway, we have included for the last 8 years for increasing the number of teeth, and of course, number of teeth is increasing, so the animal is becoming longer as well as a side effect of that. But still, we can see that teeth are, even though we have more functional teeth, they're not accessible. So we have to do something with the accessibility. And yes, if we can, but this is not easy to measure in real time if you are going to include in the breeding goals. So we have to have some automating system that can actually give us directly the information about the other, so we can select really quicker for such good traits in the mothers. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, it's new to me. I never thought about sow is still growing. I mean, I didn't think about that. And now you brought to our attention that it takes kind of at the sixth, seventh parturition, the sow is still growing. That's incredible. I mean, where does she find time and energy to still grow with these massive demands? That becomes a real. I never thought about that. I thought that probably the second parturition, third, she's fully grown, but her data doesn't seem to suggest that. That's incredible. When does she have time to grow?
There are super cells. Cells capable to be in the herd until reaching 6, 7, 8 parity. We could just say or assume that this is the super cell. Working really well because most of this is also the why more and more cells are also already excluded after the first parity, second parity. And I don't know the percentage or proportion of the cells that are reaching even fourth parity. Already know that if we are going to increase and increase, this is going to be even bigger issue for a decade.
Going back to your title, do you think that it's possible to produce a super cell? And what is a super cell for you?
Super cell for me is super cell for me is a robot cell that actually can produce and give birth to, for example, 13 piglets, and she is capable on her own to win these 13 piglets, but not losing too much weight or develop any other health problems during the lactation period, and that she can do the same procedure during the 7, 8, or even more parity. This is also going to decrease the cost for the farmers because of veterinarian costs, and also we will have much healthier sows. This is for me super sow.
Yes, I have a comment on this because we are producing more piglets, like the litters are bigger, and the sows are trying to improve the traits on sows. But where will you stop? Because I think that we should slow down also, because we will reach a point that's impossible to improve welfare, because there are a lot of piglets and super sow, and it's unsustainable. So I think that we should also do this, and it's really interesting our data about sow traits improving the life of them, but also we should think on slow down on production because.
But this will not happen. The breeders also said to us that there is no limitation. There's still just 2 rows, but they can produce 1 extra. So,
So the question would be, in your opinion, Marko and Inglesi, what would be the kind of the highest number of piglets, what the highest litter size that would be acceptable in the condition of the knowledge that you have today? For the super sow, what would be the ideal number of piglets born? And someone asked you in a committee, you're in a committee, the extra.
for the ideal, you mean for ideal?
Yeah.
For ideal, as I mentioned, I think it would be around 13 piglets, but we should more focus to have equal size, not extremes, because now we are selecting for the extremes still, but we should focus to have equal size, medium size, 13 piglets, and that also that they have more, the litter is more uniform. This is my opinion.
On your own without having extra money. But I think this has moved a little bit because they've been selected for other rates. So I think it's moving around 13, maybe even 14. So the geneticists have actually shown that it's possible. The limit a little bit. But we have to also, like he's talking about, that the cost for the south will affect the longevity. And so many farmers, our farmers in Norway, they have maybe 1 liter per sow or two, and they told them after that because they want them to produce the maximum. When they have a decline in the production, they just kill them. So that's also a consequence that they are recruiting young sows much more, and to keep them.
And do you think that you start to apply this selection based on these traits? This all like these ones that you showed that increase?
Localization.
We had a discussion with Norwegian selection company, Nushvin, and we are going to apply one project now together. And how can we include these traits in first testing in nucleus hertz, and which traits can then be also possible to include it in.
Anybody else have another question? I have a question. And did you, because I think one important thing also to decrease the piglet preweaning mortality, it's the amount of milk production. Did you measure the yield, milk production of the sows? Or do you think, because in Brazil, we usually don't have any kind of fiber from gestational sows. And we know that if you give them fiber during the gestation, you can improve your yield, milk capacity. So, and also nest building will provide straw and maybe hay, I don't know, but do you think that it could be a variable that could influence the pig preweaning mortality?
If you are increasing milk yield?
Yep.
This is the same. If you're increasing the milk yield, the mother is going to lose more of the weight. This is, but the milk yields is, of course, it's not at the first time. At the first day, mother can just increase milk production by decreasing nursing clitoris. But later, during the lactation period, if there is more piglets in the litter, there is going to be higher milk production. But I think Danish breed is already starting now to thinking, because they are a big problem now, pushed everything a little bit too far with the litter size. And they have like fostering mothers, and everything is now collapsing because the management routines are too costly for these piglets. And now what they would like to do is to improve milk yield. So they could avoid management routines and all other risky factors, but there is still some limitation, I would say.
And maybe
you cannot produce now 16 piglets and win 60.
And then, as you said, when you increase the milk production, you also can increase the maternal loss, like the sow's loss of weight, and maybe the lesions and cooling. Yeah, have a lot of it. So, anybody else have another question? So I would like to thank you all to come, and also thank you, Dr. Marko, for your great presentation. And I want to invite you all to drink the best coffee of the campus downstairs. So thank you very much. And thank you for all from the internet.